Yeah, so Mountain Blade 2, you've been playing more a little bit, Bob?
No, actually, not at all. I've been a little busy, but the long-awaited Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord is out, so Naj and I tried playing it a little bit, um, which, it's interesting. The gameplay is not too different from the old games, but it looks better. And actually, Naj, one other thing that you haven't encountered is they changed like how you siege cities. So that got really interesting. There's a lot more depth to it. In the previous game, it was like it would just bring you in. It would say, "Oh, there's a hole in the wall," and then just throw you in there. And
Oh,
now,
nice.
now it's a little different, where you can actually like try to ram the like gate or climb over the walls and things.
I've never played it. Is it like real time strategy?
No, it's like it's you're a single person.
Oh, like third person kind of
Yeah,
adventure-ish?
Yeah,
yeah.
but it does have strategy aspects. I mean, there's a map, um, and you go around like recruiting people and putting them in, like you have a party. So so what's interesting is you it is like third person, but you recruit like people to be in your party. So it'll be specific characters or like just other people you
Hired
recruit.
help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Wait,
so
so
you
it's
you
like
you so you do control them too, Meher, which
right.
makes it a little bit
So
different.
when you go into the battle mode, you actually give them commands.
As you're controlling your single
but
person.
it's in real time though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like turn-based kind of
Because
Yeah.
because you're
lead
always
combos thing.
controlling your one guy, but you also
Uh,
control the other guys too.
you
I mean, the
kind of
way
give
you
them commands or something.
yeah, you give them commands. So if you remember, that's the game I talked about having a really great multiplayer experience with in a mod where there was a huge battle, and every person in the game was an actual person playing.
Wait, so it's like massive multiplayer kind of deal
No,
too?
they're separate. They're separate modes. I thought it was. That's one of the reasons I bought it. But it's no, the single player is separate from the multiplayer.
Yeah. So the multiplayer that I was talking about, it was based on a mod that kind of made it like I guess musketman era, like Napoleonic era. You have muskets and all that. But the thing is, in that mode, I mean, the multiplayer there it has battle modes, so you can do a battle mode. I don't know what the ones are in the new one, but
Yeah,
you can
you
get
weren't
on a
able to
map.
get there. Yeah, so
Yeah,
like I didn't play multiplayer, but like there's like a multiplayer menu or whatever you can look at, and there's three modes right now. Two of them are different 5v5 modes, but then one of them is like a 30v30.
Oh,
yeah.
So
okay.
yeah, so it's like a big, massive
But see,
medieval
in those,
battleground.
yeah, in those modes, you can actually command. I think you command like five. What do you call it? Like computer, not actual players.
Yeah.
Right, NPCs.
AI, yeah. But the like I said, the really cool part about that mod that I played before was that every single character was an actual person, and there was a chain of command and all of that, so we were taking orders. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, I guess it could be massively multiplayer from those mods, but I don't know if that's possible at the moment.
Yeah, probably gonna take a while before all that is built up, I bet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like it's still early access right now,
yeah, it
Oh, it
is.
is? But
so
it
it's not
plays
even.
well? It's not
No, it
buggy or
doesn't.
anything?
No, it's very buggy, and Bobber's been
Ah,
having trouble with it, and that's like one of the main complaints. Is like it's like, yeah, it's early access, but it's still pretty fucking buggy.
Yeah, I mean, I think
is it free right now? Or what?
no,
No, it's fucking $50.
Nah.
like
It's
my
just
main,
thinking about what game to get into, and you used to play the original one, I think. So
yeah.
maybe I'll get it too.
See, my main like complaint, I guess, is that it's not that different from the prior games. Like the map is much bigger, but
Graphics are way
really
better.
graphics are better, but the gameplay itself is like just about the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the melee attacking is just so fucking awkward.
yeah,
Awkward, really?
Yeah, yeah, it's like yeah, I'm pretty decent at video games, but this game just kicked my ass.
but you also got to level up now. At the beginning, your character has it's not.
Yeah, like low stats and stuff. There's a
Yeah,
lot of RPG elements too in Mher in the single
right.
player.
Mm.
But but no, even that, like I can't hit things.
Yeah. No,
It
you
like
got to
it
get used to it,
doesn't
Like the
matter
controls
how
are
yeah how good
unfamiliar.
my gear is or my
dude.
character.
Yeah, it's
I
not
can't
immediate.
fucking hit.
Yeah,
Did you ever play For Honor or Of Honor? What was that game? It was
Yeah,
like
for
very
honor.
it was like a melee game.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
thought that was really awkward. It was really hard to get a hang of it.
That one's way more. I did play it just a little bit. Bobber actually played it at my pad before. I don't know if he remembers, but
yeah.
that's like way more precise and accurate in my opinion. It's like it
Than
was
this
meant
game?
it was meant for you to like fight someone one on one and like
Yeah, yeah,
do the
yeah.
directional thing, right? It was like directional.
Yeah, I vaguely remembered. I just remember I had a lot of trouble with it. But it was I guess it was like a fighting game, but not like, 2D. It was like a 3D fighting game kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, yeah. It was. I
yes,
mean, it was like directional parrying and stuff,
Mm,
which
right.
Mountain Blade has.
that's
Yeah,
right. Like you focus on an opponent or something like that.
yeah, yeah. So Mountain Blade is like that, except it's like just a lot less kind of uh,
Well,
I don't know,
Precise.
specific or like defined. It's like very
Mm.
loose, kind of how you swing and
oh, I don't know
Ah, I
about
see.
that. I feel like maybe you're not I don't know, used to it or something because
well,
it
I'm
is.
definitely not used to it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is like you do have to be very like precise is the hardest part. Like you'll have a spear and you can if you go to the right, but you also have to aim it correctly, and it's not always intuitive because it doesn't look the same. Anyway, I mean, it gets pretty hard. Like you're on
Yeah,
horseback.
I think that's a big difference. I guess I would say is it seems very unintuitive. It's like what's
Yeah.
happening exactly because there's not like a visual indicators.
Is it like
Yes.
that silly game we played where you have to throw each other off the ledge?
No, not like that. On it. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of
I
like
would I would say it's like almost kind of similar, just kind of how ambiguous, yeah,
no. I
or at
mean,
least like the hitboxes are. Like it's hard to judge
yeah. I
exactly
don't know about.
where
Yeah, maybe. I just think you're not used to it yet. Because it's a little too like realistic. I think in a sense, like or precise. Like, um, if you swing and like you're in the general area, it's not just gonna give it to you. You know what I mean? You actually gotta land the hit because the other guy could like move to the side a little bit, or if you have a shield, like you can't just hold the shield and it'll block everything. You actually gotta block
in the direction. Yeah.
in the direction that they're
So what
doing
is
it.
this like
Yeah,
medieval Europe or something? What
yeah,
what what like era are we talking about? Yeah,
yeah.
like
It's
knights and shit.
1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So 1000 AD. I mean, that's their. They have like several different types, but it corresponds really closely to like I don't know, like Scandinavians, North Africans. I don't know, like Byzantines, probably like Britons, Spanish, kind of like that. Yeah, and you have different kinds. I mean, the great thing is like you have I don't know like every type of weapon you can think of for that time period, like bows and arrows and throwing things. People throw rocks at. Oh, here's the worst thing at the beginning: is these guys are like snipers with throwing rocks. So you'll be riding on horseback, and like some guy from like I don't know 50 yards away will smack you with a rock and knock you off. It's pretty insane. So I think they nerfed that actually. Um, But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I watched the Sunset trilogy. I just watched the third one tonight. I was talking to you a little bit about that, Maher.
the before
Yeah.
trilogy.
Or yeah, whatever. The Sunset was one of them.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
before because the first time you mentioned it, now you
Yeah,
said it.
I said that. Yeah, that's what I said.
You said
The sun,
after
uh,
sunset, and I looked that up, and it looked like a really terrible movie. Um,
You've seen them, right, Bob? Or have you?
I've
You've
seen
seen
at
everything,
least
so
one of them,
yeah.
and I know Maher, you really like Richard Linklater.
Yeah. I
Um,
liked it. I liked all of I don't really remember the third one that well, but the first two I liked a lot. Yeah.
the third one is like pretty significantly different in a way,
is
in
it?
like a way, a kind of specific way.
They're just super old.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
wants to watch
they're
them.
not hot anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
they're not young. They don't have that youthful spirit anymore. You know.
right. Oh, and I actually read, uh, just independent of you talking about it, Naja, I read about the trilogy. Seems really interesting.
Yeah, and they're great. I loved all three of them.
Yeah, and I
I
love
really
Ethan
did enjoy
Hawke.
them. It's Julie Delpy, man. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know what else I've seen her in.
All I've seen is that she was in White.
I think I watched like 2 out of 3 of those, but I remember it being really depressing, and I kind of didn't get it, so I didn't really get into it.
Yeah, I remember not really getting it, but thinking that it was like really shot beautifully.
Wait, are you guys
That's
talking
Mm,
about a Red, Blue,
the,
White, or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, that
exactly.
Polish
oh,
French guy that made
yeah,
it.
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, one
Oh,
of them was really depressing, but I don't remember what color it was.
I think it was Blue with Juliette Binoche.
Yeah, possibly like her husband died or something.
Yeah,
He was a
yeah,
pianist, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's all I remember.
Juliette Binoche.
I watched the movie too recently. Did you guys see 1917? I just saw that this weekend.
Yeah.
What did you think, Bob?
Oh, it was pretty cool. I thought the tracking shots and all that were awesome. Like it looked great.
Yeah,
It was like really enjoyable to watch.
yeah,
Well, he's good. He's good at making movies look good. That's for sure.
yeah. It
Who did it?
looked brilliant. I really liked the way it looked, and um,
Who's the
the
director?
way it captured just the feel of the war and stuff was really cool. But the story was pretty simple.
Sam Mendes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I like his stuff. But
What
yeah,
else
the
has he done, Naj?
He did American Beauty.
Oh, okay.
He did
um
he did one or two of those new James Bonds that were like really good in terms of like how it was shot.
No, the movie was like visually just stunning. It was really
okay.
amazing.
I guess I
But
don't particularly like his stuff now that I look him up.
did you look it up?
Yeah,
Like,
I
oh
mean, like,
fuck James Bond, fuck this guy.
well, I liked American Beauty, but not particularly anything else.
Revolution Road
1917.
or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I love
Road to
American Beauty,
Perdition,
and I like those
right?
Bond movies. Oh,
Bob,
Revolution
didn't you
Road.
used to be into Perdition Road or Road to Perdition?
No,
You
not
made
at
one.
all. Not at
Oh,
all, man. I kind of didn't like that movie.
mm.
um, but yeah, Naja, you haven't seen 1917?
No, no, I haven't seen it.
So, like, it is a good movie, but I mean, there were some, I don't know, some of the story, I guess, was a little weird. I guess some of the actions of the main character were a little weird. But anyway, Maher, is that you breathing into the mic?
It's not. It must be Naju. I'm pretty far away
Oh,
from the mic.
okay. So it's you, Naj.
Sorry for breathing. I don't know
Yeah,
how I'm gonna
you should
I don't
be.
know how I'm gonna stop that.
Yeah, but yeah, that's some of the things like were a little weird. That scene with the German pilot seemed
Uh-huh.
very contrary to everything I've heard about pilots in World War One. Like
Oh,
they were very deferential, um, and
to whom?
generally, what's that?
Deferential to whom?
To each other in general, like they were very
Mm.
deferential to pilots, but also to each other. Like it seemed like a weird thing that he did, and it's a plot point, so I won't spoil it.
Yeah,
But
they had to like drive that. They had to create that event basically.
right, yeah, I guess some of the or like a lot of the, what do you call that? Like the tension, I guess, was seemed invented to me, like unnecessary. Like some of the um issues in the movie, like could have been didn't need to be there if the guy just like kind of didn't hang out sometimes for no reason. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but again, like in terms of how it looked and as an experience, it was cool. But yeah, I guess those little nitpicky things like throw me out of the movie and make me kind of like, what the hell? But yeah, if you've ever heard about World War One, you've heard about like the Christmas, what do they call it? The ceasefire. Like,
Yeah. Weren't they gonna make a movie about that day or something, or about that?
I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I always said that I thought that I was gonna write a script about it.
really?
You were?
Well, just like yeah, well the first time I heard about it, I was like, oh, dude, that's a fucking movie right there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they've made movies about it at this
And every
point.
time I've brought it up to Bobber, that's his what he says.
Really? Yeah, I think I may have actually seen something referencing it specifically. But also just pilots in general were because that was also the time where these armies still had these like conceptions of like gentlemen and like the officers were of that class and all of that, and the pilots tended to be better off people, people that were kind of like adventurers and everything. I don't know, the Red Baron, like they tended to be,
Sure. Yeah.
they had like a certain code, and like they didn't pur-
Chivalry in a sense.
right, they didn't like purposefully even try to like kill each other, you know.
It was just for sport.
Yeah, I mean there was very little doubt.
Gentleman's sport of war.
Yeah, kind of, dude. Like, sounds funny, man, but a lot of the history of war is kind of like that, especially in Europe, where there's like this very not strict code, but kind of sounds silly to us now. Like, or even like the chivalric code, like a big part of it was you don't kill the dude you're fighting against, especially if he's a noble, you don't kill him. Like, peasants don't
Yeah.
matter, but you kind of treat each
Yeah,
other
yeah, you kill
nicely.
your own peasants. That's fine.
Oh yeah, dude, it doesn't matter whose peasants they are.
Naju, you gotta point the
Just
mic away
peasants
from your
kill on
nose
sight.
there.
Yeah, basically. What,
Naju,
Maher?
lift your mic up a little bit. I think it's like right under your nose or something.
Yeah, I mean it's where it's supposed to be, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Stop
Yeah,
Is it
fucking
bad?
breathing
Is it
so
bad?
much.
yeah. Please stop breathing. I can still hear it too.
But you weren't doing it before. Suddenly you started doing it. So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't always breathe.
Yep. So, anyway, was there anything else you guys wanted to add? I did have a couple of things.
Well, I guess I finally saw Parasite, so we can talk about that a
Oh
little
Oh,
bit if you
yeah.
guys
cool.
want.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, what did you think? 'Cause I think Maher and I both said we really liked it.
Yeah, I remember Maher's comment was he didn't think it was like particularly different than other good movies that come out. It was just kind of weird that it just like affected the zeitgeist and and got nominated and won fucking Best Picture, which is unheard of.
Really? Huh. I don't remember you saying that, but I don't know. I feel like it was a particularly kind of.
Well, I mentioned like I was more commenting on its commercial success in America, which I thought
Oh
was
yeah, it's
really just
surprising
kind of sort of unbelievable in a way
for sure.
because it was like it wasn't, you know, it's not the only movie that's been not American that's been that good. I mean, I don't know,
Right.
but it really punctured through like, I don't know, American pop culture in a way that I don't know exactly how it did it, but I guess maybe
Right.
it was kind of fitting for the moment, and I
Yeah,
don't know.
like hit a nerve or something.
Yeah,
Kind of like Gangnam Style.
Yes. Not just because it's
it's
Korean.
completely opposite
Yeah, yeah,
spectrums of
yeah,
Korean
right.
culture right there, like
Actually,
opposite ends.
I heard about how Psy is like Psy. That's his name.
Yeah,
How he kind of comes from like a particular neighborhood in Seoul. Is that what Gangnam is? Um, right,
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
Gangnam.
yeah.
Gangnam is
Um,
an area of Seoul, a neighborhood of Seoul for sure.
but how like
It's
he
like
has like,
the Beverly Hills of Seoul or something like that, isn't it?
oh, is it?
Kind of, yeah, in a certain way.
But like I heard how he's pretty critical of like capitalism and stuff like that, and I don't know. I didn't read. I don't
Yeah,
remember too well,
yeah,
but
yeah. I don't think he's like the.
Gangnam Style is a satire, I guess. I
I
don't
mean,
know. I have
it
no
kind
idea.
of was. He's
it
not
kind of
like
was, yeah.
if he was like an older guy, he wasn't like some fucking party monster or something.
Yeah.
Right.
But then
Um.
obviously that's not what made it big.
Right. Mm. So, Oh yeah, that's what I remember. People were criticizing him because he had criticized American imperialism, and they were like, "Oh, why are you guys all into this un-American or anti-American song?" Anyway, um, so
Is that in the song? I honestly maybe have heard
it's
it
not
like
in
a couple of
it's
times.
not in that song. I'm just saying
Oh,
he
okay.
as like an
As a
artist or a
person.
person. Yeah. Um, but Harry, we each had a criticism, and we didn't want to say it as so as not to spoil it. Can we talk about that?
Honestly, I don't remember. It's not super fresh in my mind anymore.
I remember you said it was about the lights, the coded light message. I
That
don't know
was
what you
that was.
meant.
I mean, Chris was talking about that.
Did
Oh,
I
was it?
tell you what I was
Yeah,
disappointed in, Bob? Did I tell you? Can you recall it for me?
I thought that was it, but maybe I'm
because
misremembering like
I
Naju's
think
saying.
when we were hanging out playing Worms, he was mentioning that.
Hmm.
Because I remember specifically Chris talking about that. I don't know if you had a
Okay.
conversation with her separately, but
No,
Oh,
no,
maybe you
this was
mixed
on
me
the
up with Chris.
podcast. Okay. I mean, the
Fuck,
one
I don't
thing
remember. Maybe I'll have to rewatch the movie to
I
refresh my
could be
mind.
wrong. I could have just been thinking of the conversation with Chris. So, the one thing I thought was kind of weird. Like after all of that happened, and like kind of like the message of the movie about I don't know, upstairs and downstairs people, to use a Downton Abbey term, kind of like the class divide and all of that, right?
Hmm.
I thought it was kind of weird for the very like last minute or two of the movie, after they went through all of that, after they like I don't know, risked their lives and people died and like all of this just so they can try to like get a little piece of the Korean dream or whatever, you know what I mean? After all that happened, like at the end, it was like, oh, by the way, he just like worked really hard and bought the house. You know?
Uh,
I thought that was just kind of really contrary to like the
yeah.
message of the movie. I don't know.
I think
y-
I
y-
remember you like hinting at that. Yeah, you were like, I just didn't like the very end of the movie, and I was like,
Yeah,
I don't remember it that well.
it just
But
seemed a
that
little
makes a lot of sense. It's
seemed
like
a
you're
little
throwing
weird.
away the whole movie in that moment in a way, you
Right.
know.
It was a little weird and tacked on. I don't know.
yeah,
I think I
for
think
sure. I
that's the
think
sort of thing. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think that's the sort of thing that just moviegoers, you have to give it to them.
A Hollywood
Maybe
ending.
that's why it punctured through and had that pop culture success because you got to make them have some kind of warm, fuzzy feeling that, hey, all this criticism is really just for sport, and at the end of the day, it's not so bad.
I mean,
Wow.
that's not actually how the movie ended, though, right? That
It,
was
it
that was that was his the son's like imagination, like his goal. The movie doesn't end with him actually in the house. That was like a
Honestly, I don't remember. Yeah,
yeah,
does it?
because there's
but
shots
it
after
does.
that. No, no,
What do
there's
you mean?
shots of him in the house, and that's his imagination, and then after that, it's him in reality again. That's not actually the very last thing.
What do
Is
you mean?
them
The
in the
very
house.
last thing is like they go and they
They
get the
buy the
dad
house.
again.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's his imagination.
Are you
There's a scene
sure?
after that that's not that where he's not there yet. He's
I
talking
don't
about that was his goal. No, I was like reading about it too after,
I don't
and
remember a scene after that. So maybe.
he was saying about how the ending was ambiguous, and they put that in there to kind of like for certain viewers to have hope. But
It
but
would
it's
have been much
ultimately
better if that
unrealistic
was
that
his
he would be able to
imagination.
do that, right?
I don't remember a scene after that. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah, that's not the last scene. It's at the end though for sure, but it's not the
What's the
last
last scene?
scene. I think it's just him, the son, like contemplating.
That would be a much better ending.
Yeah, I don't. Okay.
But you got to just stick the knife in. You can't like really.
Well, you know what's interesting? You say that about kind of having the audience like accept that. That's like a part of the whole social realist genre of movies, like the socialist realism that like Stalin kind of made forced onto the art of the Soviet Union at a certain point, was that it would be just very like harshly socially critical show like the struggles of common everyday people. And I think that's actually those Chinese movies, Meher. Do you remember that one director you really like?
Yeah, yeah.
Like The World?
Right.
that movie. I think
Oh,
it's
is that what socialist realism was? I only read
yeah.
about it in
But a part of that too is at the very end you always have this just like there's a sense of
lingering
hope.
hope.
What's that?
A lingering hope, like
Yeah, there's always this like there's the sun. You can see the sun on the horizon. That's like always like a
yeah.
common like image or whatever.
Yeah.
So
My
I
hair
find
fucking
that
hates.
interesting.
My hair is
You hate?
like fucking. Hope is not a real thing. They
Yeah,
show me that shit in movies. Get the fuck out of here.
dude.
Did
I
you ever
was
see that movie Naju? That Chinese one that I was like super into for a while. I know Bob saw it.
In the mood for love.
No, The World.
Oh, the world. Oh, I think I remember you being into it back in the day. I never saw
Yeah,
it.
I
I was
actually
very
saw it with Ike. He recommended it, and then we watched it, and I thought it was amazing.
I really liked it. Another movie I saw by that director. It was very similar style and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I remember you watching it, and I couldn't because like I had to study or something. We were in college, class
so
one.
That's funny because remember I was talking about that conversation that I stumbled upon and I read through
yeah,
uh, of
Yeah,
us, Maher. You
yeah.
that was like one of the things you were like, "Fuck, man, I was supposed to study," but you're like, "I got like this test coming up or something," and you're like, "But it's okay. I'm here for you, man."
yeah.
Uh,
So,
Wait, this
but
must have
just
been while I was
In San
in
Diego, I
San
think.
Diego. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds about right.
so I did also watch The Joker, and I thought it was pretty amazing. Uh, I really liked it. I'm not gonna go much into it, but did you guys watch that?
My hair did, yeah. I didn't.
I saw it. I honestly, I was pretty disappointed in it in a way, man.
Yeah, it really hit me, and I liked it. It was interesting. My sister really liked it too, and she works with crazy people. My words, not hers. I think she liked that
I
movie
guess
also.
like I won't go too much into detail for Naju. Like I'm gonna forget all this by the time you see it, Naju. But like it really felt kind of just like nihilistic in a way. There's no sort of like message or
Oh,
idea
there's
or
no hope in
anything.
the end, Meher. Sorry.
Not even like hope. There's no like coherent like
I don't know.
idea. I don't
I don't
know.
know,
It's
man.
like
I think it has a very similar kind of like um, same kind of hit the same chord as Parasite. It has a lot of class issues, and I loved how critical it was of like Wayne, the Bruce
yeah,
Wayne's dad, and
yeah,
all of that.
totally. But it's just like I understand that they have to like stick to canon or whatever. But like the obvious move is like just make Batman the bad guy. That's the actual story that makes sense at that point.
But they kind of did, didn't they?
I must have dropped out. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I'm saying
Oh,
they kind of did
No,
do
no, no,
that.
yeah, we're good. Bob Howard paused in his sentence.
No, I was asking a question. I was saying they did that, didn't they? I mean, not Batman himself. He was a child, but his
yeah,
dad, his
the
dad was
idea of
the bad
Batman.
guy, right?
Yeah, but in a way, like they didn't. I feel like in a way they portrayed it as well. The alternative to Batman is you know chaos and like
Oh, see,
nihilism.
I didn't get.
So that's sort of what this is about.
See,
Like
that's funny because
when
I didn't.
order and if the way that we've organized this whole thing that you want to criticize, if it crumbles, then the other side of it is just
Oh, okay,
meaningless violence and chaos, and
okay,
that's kind of what it felt like. And it was like, well,
yeah,
you should just go all the way and just say no, there's actually something there. But it felt
yeah,
kind
but
of like, well, it's the abyss on the other side. I don't know.
I kind of thought they actually um, were on that line because I don't think in the end they completely went that way. Um,
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I do get what you're saying. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like in the end, they're like basically like, oh, look at how scary and violent this is. We need Batman or
Yeah,
whatever. But I thought they did a really good job of kind of showing the opposite of that, like the other side of that. Like, look how fucked up this society is, and all they're doing is throwing like this rich guy at us or whatever. Like he's supposed to be the hero, and he kind of isn't. But you're right. I think if they kind of went more with making him seem like the villain, so
yeah,
I get your
and
criticism. I like that.
in a way, like, yeah. it almost does feel like more insidious in a way to say like, oh, and you know, it's a very like accurate critique of like, you know, I don't know, let's say American media. But
Yeah,
like the idea is like, oh yeah, we know it's bad, but you know,
right,
what's the alternative? You know, like
right.
this is scary. We better just like I
Which,
don't know. It felt like that was kind of like it should just go all the way and say like, no, the criticism is valid, and there actually
oh
is a
yeah,
good way to organize society. It's
but
not
you're
just chaotic like nothingness, you know.
right. But you're right. It's not going to go all the way because the whole making Batman a hero is that idea, and
Yeah,
that's why Batman is a terrible hero. I mean,
yeah, and that's why like that those like Christopher Nolan movies like were like really good movies, but like underlying it all
for
was just
sure.
like kind of this really uncomfortable like idea.
But
And I always really didn't. What was the
yeah,
big one that blew up? Batman
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah,
The
and it was
Dark
just
Knight.
like, man, like the underlying message of this movie is like really fucking
Oh,
creepy.
absolutely. It's all about
Yeah,
how necessary like the actions in the war on terror are. Like, um,
yeah,
basically like extrajudicial, like things like torturing someone or having like a surveillance system. Like how all those are necessary. And no,
yeah.
for sure.
It's like apologizing for necessary evils, and
Yeah.
it's just like, well,
But see
if you're
again,
just gonna present the world as that's the only alternative to chaos, then yeah, I guess you know you have a point, but you're
right.
framing that as the entire universe of possibilities.
I mean, I completely agree with you guys in terms of specifically those Batman movies, but I kind of feel like it doesn't get that deep to most people that watch
And
those
that's
movies, you know?
Yeah,
People
definitely
aren't
not.
thinking about those
I think
issues when they
that's why
watch
it is
that
more
movie, you know?
insidious, like Mayor's saying, because they don't like present it in that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember really hating that movie, and everybody loved it, and I was
Yeah,
like,
I
I'm just
didn't.
not going to talk about it to anybody except for like
I
Bobber.
didn't much like it either. um,
But it's like you're Christopher Nolan, man. You can make such great movies. Like, why would you make that? You know, I don't know. And it was like, in a way, it was like a good movie. It was like, if that's what you want to do, then you he did it really well. You know?
but yeah, dude. I mean, you can still. I feel like you can still watch Joker and kind of put that aside, like, or be more on the side of the Joker. But
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. They do kind of present that in the end. Um, anyway, I did have two particular things I wanted to talk about, and we've
yeah,
spent a lot of time talking about other things. So
yeah.
we
Our
haven't been on.
audience has been like, we've been really like, you know, withholding a little bit. So this will be a treat.
Oh, yeah, I've actually had people contact me and be like, "What the hell's going on? Why aren't you giving me content?" So here you go, guys. I guess we can chalk this up to Bob talk.
Yeah,
Yeah, do it. I'm filling time. Or you guys are filling time right
So
now.
I did want to just quickly talk about the end of this movie, TV show that I had watched called Turn,
yeah,
and I'd mentioned it before. It was about George, the spy ring that like George Washington set up during the Revolutionary War. And I thought the show itself was kind of okay. Like it was enjoyable enough that I watched the whole thing, and um, it suffers like a lot of other shows do, especially when you watch it like not kind of back to back, I guess, where you can see some patterns and all that.
it suffers when you do watch it back to back, or when
Yeah,
you don't. Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah,
When you
yeah,
well, because you start noticing like these patterns or repetitive like
yeah.
kind of plot points. Or devices. Like, how many times can he get caught and almost get executed and get rescued at the last moment? You know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
And you kind of start noticing that, and it's you expect it. So, or like I was mentioned in Breaking Bad, like how many times is this guy gonna start working for a new dude and expect everything to be fine, and everything's
Yeah,
not fine, and he has to fight the guy? Like that happened
yeah.
like 4 or 5 times in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it
Um,
is interesting that when you do like kind of binge something or watch it at a like a
yeah,
quicker rate, I think you do notice it much more, you
for
know?
sure. Especially if you watch a procedural, you start to see like the formula.
Yeah.
And they kind of made fun of that in a meme regarding House. I don't know if you've seen that meme.
Which one? The lupus one?
Um, I don't know. It's like a longer one, but like
Oh, my fault.
um.
Naju just like broke his headset and like set us back like I don't know 5 minutes.
All right, are you guys drinking? Should I get a drink?
I'm having a little bit, yeah, just
I,
because.
I am drinking. Yes.
All right, give me a second. Let me get some.
All right, we just hit zero, by the way. It's now zero. Oh, by the way, for the audience, we're doing a very late night recording now because all of our schedules are so like out of whack, and misaligned.
Yeah, it seems kind of weird that the schedules are not working out when everyone's just at home doing
Oh
nothing.
yeah,
So should I continue with what I
I
was
don't remember
talking
where
about?
we were. Oh yeah,
So we were
we
talking about
noticed the patterns.
right in TV shows, but anyway, I was saying this one show, Naj, that I finished watching, Turn, and we had talked about it before. I just wanted to mention one thing: the show had a really great epilogue in the very last episode. Um,
Of just the first season, or what? What do you mean?
no, the
Of the whole
last,
thing?
yeah,
How many
uh,
seasons was it?
I don't know, it was like 4 or 5, something like that. So it went on
Yeah,
for a while.
I
Not,
really didn't pay attention in high school English class, so I'll be honest, I don't really know what an epilogue is, but I know I've heard that word before.
it's like a little wrap up at the end of a story.
What
Um,
did they do? They just had like the cast come out and like talk.
no, no,
No,
no.
no, no. It's like in world. It's still in the
Yeah,
story.
exactly.
Oh, okay,
No, there's also another
like the
thing.
montage in The Wire
Kind
at
of,
the
yeah.
end of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, something like that.
So there's another thing called an afterword, which is something the author writes, which is not in the story, in the world of the story. But
Okay,
I'm talking about an epilogue. So in this story, he takes the form of a letter he's writing his son, who actually this isn't a spoiler because really it's not a part of the story, but the son turns out to be dead after fighting in the War of 1812. So he's kind of writing his dead son, a letter.
oh, he
Um,
knows that the son is dead.
what's that?
He knows that the son is dead.
Right.
No. Well, he
Yeah,
does.
he does. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of like just him. I don't know, a cathartic thing, I guess. But I thought it was interesting because, like, I don't know. I guess the whole story, it's about spies and stuff like that. So there's a lot of gray area in people's characters. There's a lot of gray, not as much black and white. So I thought it was interesting that the way he kind of described what happened to all of the main characters, and it kind of like brought up this. It showed how they were people, not just like good, evil, which is kind of what they do a lot in TV shows, and you could have easily done that in this because one of the main antagonists was like really bad.
Stick.
Like he did things that seemed like really bad, but even he had like this code, you know what I mean? Um, and I thought it was interesting because so I don't know, like he compared basically that main antagonist who was like a British officer. Um,
Okay.
he talked about him like after talking about George Washington, who was like, you know, bigger than life. Like he was like this huge.
He was
This,
Trump-like of the era.
what?
He was Trump-like.
Trump-like?
Yeah, like I don't know, bigger than life or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I
We'll
don't
come
know.
to him.
I don't think I described him as Trump-like because he was universally praised, basically, George
Mm.
Washington, even by the British, even by his enemies. You know what I mean? Um, but some of it comes out in the show, and I thought it was interesting. He goes through like each of these characters and says like kind of what happened to them. How he talks about how like, oh, this one English soldier, not even this officer, like who was like, I don't know, like scary guy to us, like ended up back in England, like dying drunk, like with nothing, like back in the
Yeah.
country, like we saw him one way, but his life turned out this way. But I thought it was interesting. He talks about George Washington, how like, oh, he's saying how we saw this guy as like the greatest person, like the highest moral character, like the most upstanding human being, you know, because Benedict Arnold was actually a person in in the show too. How like this guy, how George Washington is so honorable, but he mentions like how part of his agreement with the British was that the British actually had like freed a lot of slaves who worked with them, and like a part of the agreement with the British was, oh, like George Washington forced them to like turn back ships that of these slaves that were like already headed to Canada, and forced them to come back. And like one of the main characters was a slave who worked in the household of a British officer who turns out to be a real character, actually a real person who was actually pretty fundamental to the American Revolution, and they totally re-enslaved her. Um,
So wait, George Washington made an agreement to turn back the freed slaves and to re-enslave them?
oh, the British had sent, like, they'd freed a bunch of slaves that worked with the British. One of whom actually was a spy for the U.S. Okay, so she was secretly working for the U.S. But after the British lost, these freed slaves, they've tried to flee to Canada so they wouldn't be re-enslaved.
Yeah.
George Washington forced the British in their peace agreement to turn those ships back. Yeah.
Wait, and even the spy that was working for them got
Oh yeah,
re-enslaved?
they never acknowledged any of the spying, dude. Even back then, it was like, well, you guys did a great thing for us, but like spies were just really looked down on.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and then he's like, okay, and then he talks about this guy who was the main antagonist, who was like pretty brutal dude, the guy that they were trying to get away from, like the whole show, talking about how, oh, this guy actually later became the governor of Canada, and one of the first things he did was abolish slavery in Canada. And I thought it was just interesting. They like talked about like these characters as kind of three-dimensionally,
Yeah.
and showed them three-dimensionally. Like, I don't know. I thought that was
I,
pretty
I,
cool.
I can't believe that they would do that in an American show, though.
Oh, why not? I mean, it's based on history, dude.
Yeah.
It's pretty well trod territory.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make him look very good
Yeah, he doesn't look that great. If you actually look into
in
it.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, in general, Washington.
Ah. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention was
All right, I'm gonna time out real quick. Hey, Maher.
Please don't break your mic again.
No, yeah, I'm just gonna throw my mic on the floor. Can you wear headphones? I think that might help.
well, because we
Oh,
can
you
hear
think the
ourselves.
audio is getting back in?
Well, I can hear Bobber on your speakers.
Oh, look at that.
Look at
All right,
that.
you're on there now, Bob. Oh,
Yeah.
you guys actually sound a lot better to me too. Okay, that's good. So Bob just watched the end of Parasite. So tell us what
Oh,
happened, Bob.
I think you're. I mean, I didn't get to see the whole thing, but I think you're right. He's talking about like, I'm gonna work hard and all that.
Yeah.
And then there's one shot of the son just sitting there in their messed up house in the apartment they used to live in.
Oh, so he didn't make it out. So it's a good story then.
Okay, all right. Sorry,
Parasite is good again.
Manju and Rob.
Make Parasite good again, great
Yeah.
again. No, but
On the day we move in, mom will be in the field. So yeah, he's talking
yeah,
about like an
the future.
aspirational thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
But oh yeah, one thing I didn't mention that I was thinking about is like that setting, their house, the poor Kim family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the underground house or
Yeah,
whatever.
and that whole like strip or neighborhood that they live in, that was a fucking set.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
really?
made it. They
They
made
reconstructed that whole thing,
yeah, they
or
made a whole
constructed
set
it?
Oh
so
shit!
that so they can flood it. That was specifically so they can
Ah,
flood it.
even their
Ah,
apartment is underground.
Yeah.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. Of course, that's a big part
No,
of the
no,
movie.
that was like a huge part of the movie is that they,
I
they
think
were
maybe Bob was being sarcastic, or was he?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't know. I didn't specifically remember it, but I'm sure I did when I first watched it. I'm
There
sure I
was this
noticed.
great there was this great post on Twitter I saw, which was like a picture of some like I don't know some place on the East Coast because they have those like halfway underground places there.
Yeah, I think they're called
And
garden apartments.
yeah, and it was great because like it was a picture where like the window on the bottom thing was like a Bernie for president like sign, and then the
Oh,
top
great.
one was like a Pete Buttigieg or something for president signing, and it was just like Parasite 2019 or whatever.
That's funny. Um, so as another recommendation, if you guys are at home getting stir crazy like we are, and you want to watch something, I found a bunch of really good videos on YouTube
Yes.
that like Wired magazine does, and I think GQ does these similar things where they break things down. You'll get like experts like breaking things down. For example, in like movies, for example, like a cook will come on, like a chef, and talk about people handling food in movies. Or there was like an excuse me,
medical experts and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there was like what's it called? Like explosive experts and different things like that. Animal experts, and they talk about animal behavior in movies.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of my just to add on to that, one of
yeah,
my favorite UFC fighters does one where he breaks down martial
yes,
arts scenes.
for sure.
Wait, so
That's
you
in there
guys
too.
know all these things, and it's specifically in the context of movies?
Yeah,
Movies, I
Uh,
think maybe TV shows,
oh.
yeah. Just say I like fictional film stuff.
but
Oh,
I think it's been movies. Everything I've seen. Yeah.
what is it called?
Um.
I don't even. I know GQ does it. I
You
don't
got
Okay.
know
you got
if.
to
So,
remember your plugs, dude. Come on.
well, I'll tell you. It's called the Breakdown.
Oh,
The
okay,
one,
cool.
the
Yeah.
one GQ does. Um. So that was cool. So from that, I actually got to Wired magazine does kind of a similar thing, and they're called different things. Like, but they're titled similar. Like breaks down. It's called Technique Critique. Okay.
Okay.
So this Wired magazine one, so our fans will remember how much we love like linguistics, especially. But there's this one this guy does, and I've been watching it. His name is here somewhere, Eric Singer. He's a dialect coach and like some kind of linguist or something. So he actually does breaks down movie accents, and it's really interesting.
Oh, that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, he actually goes into like the very specific like the accents that they have in the people they're playing and like the region it comes from and why certain things they do are like really on point. And he goes into all of those like fricatives and whatever the hell. Like,
I really want to watch this now, man. I got to
yeah,
tell you the truth.
it's really cool. It's called
Did they do Brad Pitt's character from Snatch?
absolutely. I think that's the first one I saw.
Yeah.
Here it
I
is.
can't
It's
wait to watch this. Wait, is this
see,
all one episode where they talk about the accents?
no, they have several episodes.
Oh my god.
That one actually, season one, episode one. He has Brad Pitt in that accent. He also talks about
Wait, so this
what?
is the Wired one?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll look for it.
it's Technique Critique.
Technique
Um,
critique. I like it.
and the guy's name is Eric Singer, and he actually talks about what's his name from The Wire.
Omar.
Carcetti?
I mean,
No, no,
no, not Omar. Fucking
Idris
Idris
Elba.
Ah,
Elba. Yeah, it's fucking
oh yeah, that's a better
Stringer,
example of a British guy having to do a Baltimore accent.
Yes,
right?
and what's
Or
cool?
McNulty,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
he
was.
actually,
Yeah,
but he actually specifically talks about Stringer Bell because, and he shows the things that they do well and the things that they don't. So I thought that was cool, and he doesn't just do movie accents; he also does idiolects. Do you guys know what that is?
an idiosyncratic dialect.
Yeah, basically. So it's like the specific way an individual speaks. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So that one it does movies that are about real life people. So it breaks down like,
Emulating how they speak, like the Truman Capote movie or something like
oh
that.
my God, yes. And he actually pointed out how Philip Seymour Hoffman's Truman Capote was like so spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
And he talked.
what about Lincoln? I heard that
Oh,
there was a
he talks about that too because we don't actually know what Lincoln sounds like.
right,
Oh
We
like
don't
yeah.
there
have
was like all
recordings.
this, all this descriptions of like what he sounded like, right?
Exactly, yeah, and how it's like very high pitched and kind of whiny. But
Really?
he also, yeah,
Okay.
he also talks about how, and it's cool because I really like this guy because he talks about how there's different ways you can do it. Like you can do it just to serve the story. It doesn't necessarily have to be like an imitation. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Sometimes it's better if people don't try to imitate. Like it just depends on trying to serve the
Yeah,
story.
that person's voice is just not good. We don't want people to listen to that for 2.5 hours.
Right. No, it kind of is like it might be distracting or whatever. I thought it was cool because so with the idiolects too, like the one person talked about, I remember well was Biggie in that new movie that they had that I actually watched recently.
Oh, they had a
Um,
Biggie movie recently.
yeah,
Not
Notorious, I
that
think.
recently. Yeah, not that recently, but
Like the last couple of years.
yeah, a couple years, few years maybe.
So this was cool because talking about his particular idiolect, so he's from Brooklyn. The guy that plays him is from Brooklyn. So like that, the dialect, like he kind of got spot on. But then
Hmm.
he like goes into talking about like the specific way Biggie talks. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and he kind of pointed out like a really interesting thing, like um, basically like the guy in the movie like does a great job, but he kind of puts too much like strength into it, like the way he speaks, and put like side by side with like Biggie. And he goes, "Oh, you know, you notice like Biggie's lower lip, like it never moves. You know what I mean? Like, and you kind of hear that too in the way he's speaking, the actor compared to actual Biggie. And I thought it was just really cool, and it's been a really interesting series, and I still
Honestly,
haven't seen all of them.
I'm really excited to watch this.
Yeah,
A lot of people throw recommendations my way, but this is one that's just like I gotta see this.
yeah.
This is
Well,
right up
it's
my alley.
right, and I immediately thought of you when I saw that because of that. He also talks about like fake languages, and that's a cool one too because he
So like
talks
Lord of
about
the Rings and shit or whatever.
I'm gonna
yeah.
follow Eric Singer on all of his social media.
So Lord of the Rings, the what's it called? Um, Valyrian,
Oh
High
yeah, yeah.
Valyrian. Something cool he points out about Valyrian too is that
Or Dothraki.
and Dothraki is that what they do in the show is you have different people from different parts of their world trying to speak those languages, and some of those people have accents in that made up language, and that actually shows. And something else that he said was like you'll see over time a character that is new to Dothraki. They
Has
actually
an
like
accent.
in the show itself, yeah, it shows like they're not
Mm.
like comfortable with it. They kind of have an accent. Couple seasons on, like it like disappears, you know. So I
Oh
thought that was a
wow,
pretty cool breakdown.
that's like for
Eh,
all the linguists watching the show that will pick up on that, you know.
yeah, I mean, you kind of notice it like, just in the way the person will
Mm.
speak. Like, what's her name?
Khaleesi. I mean, she was
Khaleesi.
the one that was gonna show that, right?
Yeah,
The
Right.
only
yeah, that's
person
where
With
to
you would
really show
see it.
that.
yeah, with Dothraki, like she's at the beginning is just learning it, and she's not comfortable with it. A few seasons on, she's speaking like
Rallying
yeah.
hordes of people
It's so
behind her.
weird that the Westerosi people ended up speaking English, though, huh? What a weird coincidence.
Is it weird?
Yeah, I mean,
um,
like, I always thought like, okay, this is like kind of like there's like weird like parallels they're like drawing to history in Game of Thrones. But one was like, okay, well, Westeros is like Great Britain, right? I mean, like, and then
well, it's
Essos
more
is
like
like Europe.
Western Europe.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit bigger than that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess it
it's
is
got to
pretty
be.
a lot bigger. Yeah,
But that is what's one of the differences would be, right? If you have an island, you're probably gonna have less divergent languages.
yeah, you would think
I don't
so.
know.
And then
Which,
the difference between the two separated land masses would be bigger, which is the case in the movie, so
yeah.
or in the show.
Um,
So, I'm just gonna ask you, Maher, since you didn't finish the series and you had so many issues with it towards the end.
Yeah.
Um, a
Have I
lot.
ever told our podcast listeners about that? I just want to gloat a little bit.
I
um,
don't know. I don't know if we've
no
actually.
need to
I
gloat,
think.
man.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I think
I just
we've definitely
didn't
talked
watch
about
the
it
last
plenty.
season. I just stopped watching the show. I don't even care to watch the last season, so I'm over it. Go ahead, Naj.
Yeah, you're fine. You're
Yeah, it's
fine.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
better you don't because
yeah.
it gets
You're
a
fine.
little it's a little like I don't want to say infuriating because who cares about it that much, but it's
It.
pretty
I
annoying. Like
would
it
say.
took a
I
pretty
would
big
say
dip.
Yeah, I would say it's infuriating just because I liked it so much at
Yeah,
the beginning,
Oh, really?
and
Oh, the show you mean in general?
yeah, yeah, yeah. In general. But anyway,
Yeah,
so I was wondering if you would agree, Maher, that the before you even stopped watching it, which was the last season, that the Dorn story arc was like one of the worst parts about the show. Would you
Which
say
is
that?
that the one with the scorpion ladies?
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I don't even remember, man. I think I kind of like erased a lot of that show out of my mind. So I don't know, probably. But the thing is, like,
It was so great at the beginning, though, man. That
No,
story arc.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude.
dude,
The beginning,
Yeah,
no, no, no. See,
first
see,
like 3 seasons.
see, this
Oh,
is like my whole thesis, man. Which is like what became apparent as the show kept running is like, um, they didn't actually know how to like converge the story into an ending, and it became more and more apparent, especially as they entered the later seasons. And it was like you're kind of running out of time to like actually stitch this up in like a meaningful way, and you keep diverging, and so like they back themselves up into a corner, and that's probably because, and I don't know if we have any fans of Game of Thrones listeners or whatever, but like
yeah. Because
because the
what's his
source
name was in.
material is kind of
Yeah.
shitty, dude, and that's kind of the
Oh,
reason.
okay.
Like
Well, I don't know, like what his maybe he'll wrap it up better. I don't know.
the thing is, like the whole story from season one through whatever when I stopped watching is like they just keep expanding, and it's like you have to actually like kind of converge the story at some point so that you can
But I
wrap
mean,
it up, and you never
that
did
was
that.
kind of the whole idea was that all these diverging stories were gonna come together, and they
There was
did
no
in
way to
the
do
end.
it, dude. There's no way to do it. Did they actually converge the stories or no?
oh
I
yeah, they
mean,
did
yeah,
very
yeah,
terribly. That's why
yeah.
people don't like it.
That
because
was the issue.
because they
Like they
backed
did a bad
themselves
job.
into an impossible situation where it was basically there's no way to actually finish this story, and I think
I
the
don't know if it
viewers
was
kind of
impossible,
like
dude.
waiting for a miracle, whereas
I
like
don't
I
think
was
it was.
watching it and I was like, this story is just completely out of
Dude,
control at this
I don't
point.
think that was the issue, though. I don't think it was necessarily that they couldn't resolve it kind of in a satisfactory
Way,
way.
yeah,
Like they could have, I think. I think they just kept choosing really bad ways of going about it.
yeah. I mean,
Like
there
Yeah,
the
was
I
very
think I feel like I agree with both of you on a certain level because they did absolutely choose like the worst possible
right,
things at the end, but at the
like
same
they
time,
just kept doing it.
yeah, yeah. At the same time, like I kind of agree that with Maher in that sense, where it's like I don't know if there's like any really good choices
yeah.
anymore
I think
No, but there's
they
because
better
it's
ones,
so expensive and it's just like everything is just so kind of like
dude. There's
I
absolutely
intricate and
better
complicated.
choices, man.
Yeah, for sure. There's that. See, that's where I lie in the middle. There's
the,
definitely were better choices,
for me
Because
but
every
the
they were in a
yeah,
corner a little bit
yeah.
too.
I mean, everything
Like
climaxed with like the whole battle, like at the very end, like th- that was fine. They just again went about like resolving some of those stories in a very bad way, but they
there was not
resolved them.
enough time, Bob. There was not enough time to do that. You would need another like
Yeah,
five
maybe,
seasons to actually do that. And what's most
maybe.
emblematic is like the whole Arya story, and that's I think when I stopped watching that show was like,
Yeah,
Because you loved her. You used to love that character.
and like
yeah,
I really thought in the early seasons she was a great character, and then they just kind of ruined her, and they like just ruined the story, and like her
Look
whole
how
thing
they
with like
massacred that
Bravos.
girl.
Yeah, dude, look how they massacred my baby. Um, and it was just
yeah.
like watching the whole Bravo story, and it was like, that's it, I'm done. None of this is like meaningful in any way. This is just all fucking just trivial, like fucking play fighting, and I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So just one final thing on this Eric Singer thing. Um, they talked about the California dialect once,
Oh,
and I was like, hell yeah,
fuck, dude,
finally.
I can only get so erect, dude. Come on.
That's funny. Uh, that's an Archer reference, by the way. That joke, I think, comes from Archer.
I don't know if it comes from Archer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because
I mean that
stop.
concept though.
My penis can only
It was
get so erect.
popularized by Archer, let's say.
Um, so do you know what show it was? I think actually, Meher, you're the only one that watched the show.
The
It
only
was
person in the world.
no, from the three of us was from Nicole Kidman was in it. Was it?
Big Little
Oh,
Liars or Little Pretty
yeah,
Liars or
liars.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Big Little Lies,
Did
the
you watch
HBO
that?
one. I did, yeah. I thought it was pretty good. There's another season, but I didn't watch it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You can always hear, especially with Australian accents, like when they slip sometimes. Like I hear it in Mel Gibson. If you watch like
or
I don't know Lethal Weapon, it like slips out sometimes.
or Portia de Rossi in Arrested Development.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her
I
accent
never
kind of
noticed.
slips.
Yeah, so Nicole Kidman like doing the California, he talked about it a little bit. I thought it was interesting because he talked about like flattening diphthongs. Um,
Okay.
and I thought it was interesting that I don't know. I'm so glad that like American English is or California dialect especially kind of is way more chill with these diphthongs, whereas like it's so difficult for me to try to emulate like an Australian accent
Oh yeah.
because of the and British accents because of the way that their diphthongs are like sometimes the opposite of ours. Like they'll start with the stress at the beginning of it. It'll be like the beginning of the diphthong will be higher and it'll go
Okay.
lower, whereas we do the opposite of that. You know,
Which is
so
super weird because in French class, I remember learning that to the French, it seemed like I guess maybe English in general or maybe American English had like sloppier diphthongs, and that's how it sounded to the French people. Which I guess
yeah, I think that's what he's saying is that American English flattens it, like it it kind of takes away that
it's not as clean or
up and
whatever.
down sound. What's that?
Yeah, it's not as clean or distinctive or whatever.
Right. The difference in the sounds is less distinctive, so it kind of sounds, I
Slurred
would
in a
say,
way or whatever.
cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what he should? You know what he should analyze next? Is
What?
that fucking SNL Californians
Yeah.
Oh
skit?
yeah. He does a couple of SNL imitations in the Idiolects one, which I thought was cool. But he also points that out too, like when people are like doing comedic imitation, they'll take like one thing and run with it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily trying to be like accurate; it's trying to just be
Well,
kind of
exaggerate like a specific thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so it's really cool. So if you guys out there looking for things to watch that are interested in linguistics, dude, this guy like picks out some things that I like never would have thought of. Apparently, like he points out, like I guess he can hear it where in some accents and some dialects, like your tongue curls up for a specific sound,
Maybe an
and the
R.
other ones, I think it was the no, I think it was
Okay.
the t, where like I can't even imagine my tongue curling up to do the t sound. I think that's the sound it was.
Yeah, well, yeah, you both have to touch your tongue to
Ta.
the top of your mouth. The D and
But
T.
apparently other people curl down. The anyway, I don't
Pretty
remember which one it was.
perpendicular. Yeah.
Oh,
If you
that
know
well,
what I mean.
that means that well, that kind of yeah, it makes sense in a certain way because I feel like if they're doing it that way, they're touching the middle top
Yeah.
part of their tongue onto the top instead of the tip. So
Like,
the
how do you
tip is
notice
going
that?
down, and
Yeah.
the middle part of the tongue is going up.
Oh, he pointed out another thing too with Tom Holland, how younger Americans like the trend is towards like words that end in ing to say like nothing as opposed to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I read about that before too. Somebody theorized that it might have been like an influence from Spanish speakers, and that
Did you say
California
Tom
dialect.
Holland?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you said Tom
Isn't he
Hardy.
British?
no, I'm talking about Tom Holland who plays Spider Man. This guy was
Doing the
compliment.
Brooklyn accent or whatever.
Well, he's complimenting him, saying that oh, he does such a great job,
Uh,
sounding like a young American because like this slight thing that like he nails
yeah.
the e when it's
Instead of
ing instead of yeah, exactly.
like pin instead of e like peen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, so that was a very long intro, and thanks everyone for listening.
Right.
We've been bottled up
So,
for
what
a
was
while.
this?
So, but we got a
What is this
special
podcast about?
thing though this today. Naju, why don't you let us know what's going on?
I'll let you know what's going on once I. Sorry, make another fill time. I'm gonna drop my headset and break it.
Yeah.
Can we pause?
Don't break your
Sorry.
headset.
Well,
Bob, I want to tell you about.
Oh, you don't have to pause. You don't have to pause, but I'm gonna take a minute.
Phil.
Speaking of like,
Yeah. So if you
I was gonna tell you.
if you guys, sorry, just if you guys don't remember, this is still a trivia podcast. We've been talking about a lot of media we've been consuming, but
because we're doing a lot
stuff
of that
we're
right
into.
now. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, like things like linguistics, especially etymology, seems to be something we are
Like,
particularly into, that I talk about a lot in Bob Talks. I didn't realize. Actually, one more thing I gotta say, reminded me of something we talked about on the podcast. Remember when I said in that show, The Abyss, that lower class, the people that are out in the asteroid ring. Remember how I said they have a weird like Creole accent, and I couldn't place it, and I thought maybe it was like Southern Hemisphere, maybe South Pacific. After watching this thing, now I'm thinking it's a West African Creole because it sounds a lot more like that.
oh,
He
really?
specifically talked about someone that had a West African Creole as opposed to whatever else I thought it was. So I think it might be like a West African Creole
Modeled after it
that
at
they
least,
have.
or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's pretty
Sounds a lot
interesting.
more like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I
Are you back now?
The only thing I
Okay.
know about
Go ahead.
like West African languages is they have like a lot of those ungas and umbas, and everything is like voiced. It sounds like bum 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 bum.
Mhm.
Sorry, that was kind of racist. Maybe we'll cut that out.
What? No. You're talking about the
Yeah,
language, just a
but I
particular
don't
thing.
really know anything about like East African languages, honestly. Well, like Ethiopian and like Somali are pretty different, I think.
Okay.
Right? I think they're like.
Well, I don't know. I don't know because there's. Are they in the uh,
I
Afro-Asiatic
don't know. I think they
family?
might be like Semitic or something, but I might be totally off by
Yeah,
that. I don't know. I might have
they,
to research
they
that a
might
little
be.
bit more.
And what's the country just south of Egypt? I think they have
Sudan?
the same
Yeah,
language.
I think Sudan speaks some kind of Semitic-ish language.
Uh, um. Oh,
And then
there's
all of the
a
west and to the south is like Bantu-ish, which is,
yeah.
yeah, except for like the
Well,
weird click languages. You know that that's like also one of
yes.
those other like weird isolates, like right there, like north of South Africa, where it's just
The
like,
Kosa.
yeah, Khoisan
Um,
or whatever.
he,
Yeah.
he talks about that too. He actually talks about like Wakanda and how it's based on that.
Oh, really?
And he talks about like Nelson Mandela. He also really thought Gandhi, in the movie Gandhi, that I forget the actor's name. He said that was like spot on, and he played it right next to
Like an
Gandhi's, and how
Indian
his
accent.
his accent evolves too, because Gandhi grew up in Africa, and he learned British English in South Africa,
Oh, which would have
and
been
then when he
influenced
went
that
to
way, yeah.
and then when he went to India later, like that evolved.
What's crazy is
Yeah,
like there probably isn't really. I don't know anything about this, but I would venture to guess that there really isn't even like an Indian English accent. I bet there's like several, dude, because it's such a like a linguistically diverse place. It's kind of
yeah.
amazing, you know. Well,
But there are some characteristics that like he mentions that actually subcontinental languages have, that you can kind of point to.
I like to group them
That
together or whatever. Yeah.
right, that just like in the sounds that they have. What was interesting too is like he talked about some languages that like Japanese is a language apparently that all of the words are consonant vowel,
Yeah.
where they don't actually have like diphthongs, and they don't have two
Yeah.
consonants after each
Yeah.
other.
If you look,
And I didn't realize that.
dude, it's except for I think the end sound, which can appear at the end of a syllable, basically. Otherwise, it's just
So,
consonant vowel. That those are all their syllables,
uh,
except some of them end with n. So if you think of all,
Yeah, they describe it as like syllabic
yeah,
because it's
okay.
always going to be consonant vowel or vowel.
yeah. So Naju would know
It's
this, but there's something special about the end sound, right, in Japanese.
I don't know what makes it special, but there is something. It's the only consonant sound that can exist by itself. all other consonant sounds are attached to a vowel.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like other languages that are really heavy with like two consonants after each other. Like I think Armenian does that a lot, right?
At the end,
Fucked up ass
I
language.
think at the end
Yeah.
of syllables it does. At the beginning, I don't think it does it that much.
But do they even have that many diphthongs? I couldn't even
No,
think
I
of
don't think
like
so. I don't think there's any diphthongs in Armenian, basically.
The
right.
thing is, like, Japan kind of does have diphthongs, but it's still a little bit different because they like separate their syllables so much.
Mm.
So it could be like consonant vowel followed by a vowel that exists by itself.
Huh.
But it's more
But they're
like
like
two
there are
pronounced vowels or something.
exactly
Yeah.
they're articulating each one more than
Mhm.
other languages would.
Yeah, I was trying to think of one in Armenian. I just couldn't.
I don't really think they exist because even like well, there's no W at all in Armenian, and the Y sound is sort of independent. It's not really attached to like a vowel sound, so you really don't get two vowel sounds like mixing into each other almost at all. Um,
But you definitely get consonants after each other.
yeah, you get like tune, T, what is with English letters or Tiun. You get that, which is kind of, I think, probably a
Well, you also
diphthong.
get like nj. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, consonants.
Oh,
There's
sorry.
also like
Yeah,
massive
yes.
consonant clusters. Yeah,
Mach.
I feel like the more consonant clusters there are, the lesser a language it is.
What? Get out of here.
have you guys have you guys seen that like really great like Onion art or like headline, which is like U.S. to make emergency humanitarian vowel shipment to the Balkans or whatever.
That's funny. That's great. All right.
That's a good segue because there was a funny Onion thing that I saw on Reddit recently. It was about like weed, and it was one of those like live news reports or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And they're talking to like this,
Oh,
quote unquote doctor, and he's like, "Yes," and it's basically just like going hard into all the negative stereotypes,
yeah. I think
and
I
he's
saw
like,
that
I
today.
didn't see it. Go ahead.
he's like, yes, and whatever sound you hear, that is the police, and you will be arrested.
I think the headline I saw said something like, "Yes, everybody knows you're high, and this will last forever."
Yeah, yeah. That was the one.
That's
I
great.
that was the funniest line to me though. It's just like every sound you hear is the police,
Is-
and you are going to be arrested.
So I think that's a good segue, right? What are we doing? What day is
yeah,
Yes,
it? Or it's not even that day anymore.
we missed it. We
they don't
missed it.
know that.
Okay.
They don't know.
Yeah,
They don't know
I mean they're
anything.
not going to listen to this until like May. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, this is a special 420 episode, I guess. Uh, April
That is the
20th
day.
is an important part of my life. No, it's not. But
Oh,
I definitely had a number of memorable April 20th in college for sure.
oh yeah. Naju went to Santa Cruz, guys.
That's a
Yeah,
good one.
So you
UC
can
Santa
just
Cruz.
extrapolate from that.
That's
That it
University
was
of
quite an
California,
event
Santa Cruz for our international listeners.
for our yeah
Mm.
for our Spanish speaking listeners.
Santa Cruz.
There was this joke. I think I might have even mentioned it on the podcast from Comedy Bang Bang. He's talking to somebody that went to UC Santa Cruz, and he asked them, "Oh, I see here that you went to UC Santa Cruz. My question is, wasn't there an easier way to tell your parents you were a pothead?"
You cut out
That's
it,
it.
so
That was a
I
joke.
didn't hear half the joke.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's okay. Go ahead,
Isn't there an
Naj.
easier way to what? No. You had
Oh,
it. I
oh,
missed the punchline. I missed the
you
punchline.
guys missed it too. Said, "Oh, I see here that you went to UC Santa Cruz. So, wasn't there an easier way of telling your parents you smoke pot?"
Yeah, I get it now.
That was a joke.
That's the
Did you
easiest
guys
way. I
hear
don't
me?
know about you
That's
guys.
that's yeah. There's definitely easier ways, like telling them.
All right.
It was funny. I had I had I had such a you guys will enjoy this story. Um, Such a kind of bizarre and really dumb sense of fashion or just like clothing that I would wear in
Hmm.
public. and we went to go to Hoover. I don't know if it was both of you or just one of you.
Hoover's our high school, by the way,
Yeah,
that we all
yeah,
attended.
Hoover High School. That's how we all know each other. And we met up with Mr. K, and he
Mr.
like
K was a teacher we had.
yeah. Well, like yeah, okay, they can extrapolate that much. It was not just some dude we called Mr. K that would meet us at our high school.
Mr. is a title in English people give to. Go ahead.
But he was just like, "Oh, you got a blazer and sweatpants. Like, of course, you're going to Santa Cruz right now."
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think I was probably there
Um,
because I did see Mr. K one time. We went to visit like the year after.
Yeah.
I was a student at that time, so I think I sat in another class. I don't know if you guys were there that time. Maybe it was a separate time.
I don't know. I definitely didn't sit in on a class.
Okay, maybe I was alone that time.
So, I was hoping your I don't know, we'll see, I guess, but your questions don't just have to be about marijuana. We're doing a 420 theme. They could be about the date.
You can eat a dick, Bobber.
It could be.
Oh, sorry, did I ruin
It
it?
could be about the 4 and 20 restaurant in Studio City, by the way, which
Oh,
I have no
that's
idea
true.
why it's called the 4 and 20
All right. So
restaurant.
here's what I say before we get started. Okay. I really like some of these questions, but I kind of don't like some of them, and you're just gonna have to deal with
Okay, we love you
No, I
regardless.
don't think I will. Yeah.
it. Bobber's like, no, wait. Oh, okay, fine. What my hair
Well,
said.
You guys fill time because I
I
really
don't
gotta
know,
piss
man.
before I answer questions. Okay, BRB.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
No,
crude,
Bobber.
bro.
Just to let you know, it's. I think it's a good variety of questions.
Nice.
I think you'll appreciate some of them for sure.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you in general. So.
Well, I mean, it's like I know who I'm writing these questions for, so I can kind of like gauge how much
Yeah.
interest there would be in them.
Cool. All right.
Okay, Bobber and Mher, the old competitors.
Here we are.
So we got 10.
Yeah, no, we have. Well, I have 10, and then I have 4 more after that.
Fuck it.
All right, let's
I have
do it.
nothing to do tomorrow except
yeah.
work, so.
Yeah. Who gives a fuck about that, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling Bobber Mher that I like some of these. I don't like all of them.
I was here for that.
Oh, you were here for that. Were you here for the part where it's like that they're not all 1 point?
Oh, okay.
Some
All
of them
right,
are.
that's interesting. Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
All right. It's fucking starting after like an hour of conversation.
Yeah, it's been more than an hour. All right, let's do it.
That's like when we first started, we just like wouldn't shut up and just kept talking.
Mhm.
Okay, question number 1, fellas. What plant is in the same family as cannabis and also used as an ingredient in some alcoholic beverages? Okay, so our answers, I'm just going to read them from left to right because this is how the chats were popped up. Mher says juniper. Bobber says hops. The correct answer is hops. So, Bobber's on the board.
Nice. Juniper is in gin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's more of flavoring.
yeah, so that's just the first plant
so is
that
hops.
came up to my mind, but hops is clearly a better answer, especially since it's the right answer.
So I had no idea that was the case. I didn't know they were related.
Yeah, I did some research last night,
All
boys.
right, yeah, it's fun,
Nice.
right? I think it's fun coming up with the questions.
Yeah, it was. There was like a wave. There was like a peak of fun,
Yeah,
and
it became
then
some
after a
work.
while it became like not fun. Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, Bobber 1, Mher 0. Question number 2. So bear with me with my pronunciations here. In 420 BC,
Yeah.
the young and popular Alcibiades was elected. Go ahead, Bob.
I think it's
Okay, Bob
Alcibiades.
knows how to pronounce it. This is not fair.
No, I think he's right. I think he's right. Alcibiades.
History of Rome podcast. I think they
All
talk
right.
about it.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
What did he do?
Was elected Strategos, which is like the one of the 10 military leaders.
Strategos.
Strategos. I looked it up. It was pronounced this way. I don't know. And created a quadruple alliance of what cities?
Ooh, so name 4 cities.
Yes,
What
name
was
4
his name?
cities. And here's a little. Go ahead, Bobber.
Alcibiades.
Alcibiades. Yeah, Alcibiades.
Is that with an E or an A?
Uh,
I can't hear it. Okay.
Al, like Al Bundy.
And is
Alcibiades.
that all one word or is there a space after Al?
Yeah, that's his name. It's just one word.
What?
Alcibiades.
Okay, can you just read the
Okay.
question again?
All right. In 420 BC, the young and popular Alcibiades was elected strategos, like the one of the 10 military leaders at the time in their whatever, and created a quadruple alliance of what cities? So here's a little extra hint about this. 2 of these cities are still exist, and 2 of them do not. And I'll give a point for 2 and then 2 points for 4. That's how I'm doing it.
Okay.
Or 1 point for each.
So
Would you guys
420 BC? Yeah,
BC?
1
1
point
point for
each.
each.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
1 point for each then.
Yeah, so I know Alcibiades. It's a very familiar name. He was obviously Greek. Strategos is a Greek term. They use it in like Crusader kings, for example, like Byzantine Empire. I think even during that period they used it. So I can't remember exactly what time period he was in. I mean, you said 420 BC, but I can't remember exactly what was going on then. But Mher, did you
I
send your
submitted.
answers?
Yeah, my hair has submitted, yes.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this was the guy. Pretty sure he was fighting with against the Persians, the Persian invasion. So I'm gonna go off of that and kind of say the cities of that time. So I didn't submit yet. Just give me 1 second. Okay, these are the 4 main cities I can think of in ancient Greece. So, um, is
Okay.
that right, Naj? Do you remember if he's the guy around the time of the Persian invasions?
I felt like I read about that. I don't know exactly. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Alcibiades, right?
Alcibiades, yeah.
I just looked that up. Okay.
So you guys have 3 of the same
Okay.
answers. Athens, Corinth, and Sparta were your first 3 for both of you. Maher said Alexandria,
No,
and
I'm
Bobber said
sorry.
Thebes.
Alexandria didn't exist yet, man.
Okay. Yeah.
Alexander the Great wasn't around yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it did, but yeah, I was like, okay, I can't think of a 4th city on like that peninsula area. The Thebes. That's actually a
Yeah.
really good guess. So
Yeah.
so both of you only got 1 point for that.
Athens.
Damn.
Yeah, Athens. Athens and Argos are the 2 cities that still exist. And Matinea and Elis or
That's
Elis.
pretty tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's a tough one. I knew that you guys had a chance to get Athens
Yeah.
though, so
all right. So he was around during the Peloponnesian War. So it makes sense that we both said Sparta.
Yeah.
yeah, you both said Sparta, yeah.
So it makes sense that Sparta didn't ally with Athens because the main war was between the two.
So these
Um,
cities might all just be clustered in that same area around Athens, possibly.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
those.
yeah. I think they were. Yeah, when I looked at a map yesterday, they were pretty close.
But yeah, Mher for sure. Alexandria was obviously named after Alexander the Great, and that came
Yeah,
after.
when was he around? Wasn't he in sometime around then?
Well, he was after the Peloponnesian War because he united all of Greece by
Yeah.
conquering.
But like, so what date would that be, Bob?
I'm gonna look it up because I'm not sure. So 336
Okay,
Okay,
to
so like
100
323.
years up.
Yeah,
80, 60, 80 years later.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Cool.
moving on. It's 2-1 Bobber's lead because you
Good
both
question,
got one.
Naj. That's exactly what I wanted. Was
Yeah,
not
I
just
know.
weed
I
questions.
told you. Like I said, I knew who I was
Yes.
writing
All
questions
right,
for.
let's go for 2018 now.
And 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 just like I knew who I was writing questions for you, Bobber.
All right.
The next question is a little bit more towards
Okay.
Mher. Question number 3. 420 is the product of two consecutive integers, also known as what kind of number? So some of these examples would be 0, 2, 6, 12, 20, etc. So Maher wrote twin factors and
Oh,
Bobber
sounds
wrote
good.
congruent.
I know it's not congruent.
Yeah, they are both incorrect. The most commonly used term is pronic,
Really. Also going with the
Pronic.
420 theme.
Yeah, Pronic. That's great.
Dr. Dre's best album is
Yeah.
Pronic. The other names that it is known as is oblong numbers, rectangular numbers,
Okay.
That's weird.
or heteromectic. I've never heard that before.
I don't even know that
But
root. Mectic. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a spelling. Hetero.
hetero and then MECTIC.
Mectic. Okay. Like arithmetic. No,
Maybe.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I couldn't really figure out what the like who used it or where that term came from.
I like Pronic.
Okay, so that was a hard one.
Yeah.
The next one might be easier, but is in the same realm. So question number 4 is 3-2 or no 2-1 Bobber's lead. 420 is the sum of what 4 consecutive prime
Wow.
numbers?
Is it really?
Jesus, man. Come on.
Wait, what did you say,
I
Maher?
said, oh, is it really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way in hell I'm getting this.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I was like, maybe Bobber could get this. Maybe.
I don't know, man. Like, if I had like a few days, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
And Bobber has
Okay.
submitted, and both of you submitted the same
Okay.
answer.
Good
Are you
job,
serious?
Bob. Well,
Yeah.
if I'm right.
Yeah, nicely done, Bob. See, I had a little faith in you. You know.
Thanks, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And you are both correct. It is
What?
101,
Wow.
103, 107, and 109.
All right,
Wow.
PJ.
As we
Maher.
know, 105 would not be a prime number, right? That's the one odd number that skipped in that
Yep.
series.
Huh. Dude, yeah, well, actually, after I put 101 and 103, I was like, oh, how do we add that
Yeah.
up to 20? Yeah, damn, you got to be proud of me for that one,
No,
dude.
good job.
Well, yeah. I mean, my
Nice.
hair is obviously not that heavy, but
No, just still, man. I don't know. I've
no.
given you.
See, that little, I knew that there was potential for you to get the right answer.
Can I tell you, I started with 31.
What?
31, 410.
Yeah.
I was like, this can't be right. No, I've given props to Maher for getting something
No,
right
no,
that
yeah,
I didn't
I
expect.
mean,
Props, Bob,
honestly,
props.
Thank you.
I didn't think you were incapable of getting it. I just assumed that you would give up and just not try. So, props for not.
I was very
Yeah,
close.
he was.
Yeah.
That was kind of where he was before he put
Yeah.
101 in.
Y- y-
Randomly
abs-
just put 101 in.
Absolutely, dude. Not even kidding. Yeah. All right.
Nicely done, both of you.
Yes. Good job,
Yeah.
Maher.
Yeah, I had a feeling Maher would get that one,
Cool.
but not Pronic. He doesn't know what the Pronic ass numbers are. All right, question 5. It is now 3-2. Bobber's lead still, up by 1. Question 5. Fans of this band are commonly credited for popularizing the term 420 by featuring the number prominently on flyers they distributed, or their fans distributed, in the 1990s.
Okay.
1990s.
It is not obvious to everybody. I don't think this question would be obvious to everybody.
So did you submit Maher?
I
Maher
did,
did
yeah.
submit.
All right.
Uh,
So I just want to say that I think I had a couple things in mind. I was going towards jam bands.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds about right.
Maher did not stray from jam bands.
so I was thinking what would be in the 90s would probably be something more like God, what was the jam band in the 90s?
The Maher's answer.
Yeah, what is it?
Fish, yeah.
Fish.
Fish. Yeah, so I was thinking maybe Fish, but I know the Grateful Dead was still around in the 90s.
Uh,
So I was also going between the two of them, but I did put Grateful Dead.
And Maher put fish, and Bobber has just gained a
oof.
bigger lead.
Dude, the Grateful
Yeah.
Dead fans waited all the way until the 90s to do that? Come on.
So
I think that
so
would be because
yeah.
420 was more popular later, is what I'm
It,
guessing.
well, it was.
They
There's like a
popularized
weird
it.
history to it.
Alright, I don't know.
Yeah, they popularized it. Yeah, they were the
Sure.
ones that made it like a cultural phenomenon, because apparently the agreed upon story of its first conception was in 71.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
These like this
The
these
high
group.
school students, is that
Yeah,
right?
the high school. Yeah, exactly. I forgot what city in California, but some high school students would meet after school at 420 to go look for this marijuana crop that just in the community people knew about this crop, and they would go every day to try to find it.
Hmm. This marijuana crop, was it
But
called
people didn't.
marijuana by any chance? That crop?
No, they were smoking hops.
Yeah.
Huh.
uh,
Interesting.
okay,
Alright.
so but yeah, people weren't really using it until those
Okay.
flyers went out apparently in the 90s, where the 420, it was like everyone was like, oh, let's smoke 420, and it became like a euphemism at that point.
So that's interesting. When you said 90s, when you said California too, Maher, it kind of made me start thinking maybe we're off about the jam band thing, and it maybe could be like Nirvana, who was big in the 90s.
Right, that grunge scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking Sublime even. I thought that might have been a
Oh
good
yeah,
guess
that
because they
actually
were like
might.
super like kind of low key and local and shit. Fan driven kind of stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But Fish seemed like the obvious guess. I didn't even think of Grateful Dead because I thought, like half of them were dead by then, probably. I don't know.
Only one of them died, really. Some
Yeah,
of them
Oh.
fakely died. No.
Well,
like Paul.
those were the two ones I was thinking of, was Fish and Grateful Dead, but I did go with Fish because they have staying power.
You mean Grateful Dead?
Yeah.
You mean Grateful Dead?
I do mean Grateful
Okay, moving on. Um, question number 6. Bobber is 4, Maher's 2. Question number 6. What is California's
Okay.
Senate Bill 420, which passed on October 12th, 2003, about?
Maybe they were being.
And so Bobber submitted first, and you guys have the same answer.
Okay.
Exact same answer.
I
And
thought
that
I thought
answer,
it was about medical marijuana. So is that wrong?
that is correct. It is
Oh,
about
nice.
medical marijuana. Yeah.
Huh.
Nicely
Yeah,
done,
that's
guys.
about when it happened, right? Yeah.
Okay, so this next question, so it is 5-3. Both of you got that question right.
Okay.
This is question number 7. Um, I was having trouble trying to figure out how I wanted to ask this question. So it's there's a lot of points here, just so you guys know. Okay.
Okay.
There's gonna be
This is where I make my comeback.
there's gonna be a lot of points here. Is that okay with you, Bobber?
Name a bunch of prime numbers.
Just a bunch. However many you can in this time limit. Okay. So the first part of this question, which is just one answer and it's worth 1 point, is how many countries have legislated capital punishment for trafficking marijuana?
Okay.
That is 1 point. Just how many?
Current
then,
countries? I mean, currently
no, at all, at any point.
ever have
Yeah,
done this?
but
Wait, have ever had capital punishment for trafficking marijuana?
yeah,
Okay.
but you have to kind of assume that it's going to be somewhat current, right?
Okay.
Okay. Do we get a cushion at all or no?
The no cushion on the number, but
Okay.
you can, the other points are going to be list them.
Okay.
So so
Okay.
you have I'm going to just give you the first X amount that you list is going to be your choices. So you
Alright,
can
so
list more or
Okay.
less than the amount that actually exists. Does that make sense?
I guess the number's not 0. Alright. I'm gonna need you guys to fill for a second. You submitted
Okay,
2?
so yeah, no, well, no, you submitted 2, Buffer.
I did.
So you guys kind of submitted at the same time. Mher put 7.
Okay.
Just for the first part of the question, and Bobber put 2.
So I'm thinking it's
Wow.
smaller than bigger number.
Both of you are wrong. There are 8 countries that have legislated it in some facet.
Mher, that's close, dude.
Yeah, Mher almost got that
Okay.
point.
Dude, you can get a crazy lead
Damn.
right now.
Yeah, Bobber
should've-
was so conservative here. I don't know why he was.
I should have gone for
You
8.
might as well have just gone for 20, Bobber.
Huh.
But
Wait, so
the question was ambiguous in terms of how it was scored. I admit, but going bigger is a safer bet than going smaller, right?
Yeah, I would think so. You want to guess as many as you can and prioritize them so that your earlier guesses you're more certain of.
Okay.
So both of your first countries were correct, which is Singapore.
We both said Singapore?
Yeah, you both said Singapore first, which is one of
The obvious one.
Yeah, definitely. You will die there, exceeding a certain amount of marijuana weight on your person. Bobber's only other answer was Saudi Arabia, which he did get correct.
Fuck, that seems so obvious now. Okay.
So Bobber got 2 points there. If you can help me remember
I just
that,
know that
Bobber.
it's
So
like,
because I'm
Okay.
gonna have to add up my hair stuff.
Damn, how much did he
that should have
get?
been so obvious, man. Because like, I just thought like, it's so common in the Middle East that you can't really ban it, right? Especially with capital punishment. So I don't
I
have
don't know
any
how
Middle
common
Eastern
it
countries.
is, but it's also I don't know how common it is, but it's also about trafficking, you know?
Yeah,
Like historically common, like it's, I don't know.
Is it?
Anyway.
that weed or marijuana would have been,
Like, it
big
was
enough problem.
cultivated around like I don't know, Afghanistan, Iran, and stuff, right? So it would have spread throughout that
I
region.
don't
I
know
just
if it was, dude.
assumed.
I mean, it's more of an East Asian thing.
Is it? Okay, well, that's not good news for me because almost all my countries are Asian.
Okay, so just forget all that topic. Let's just go back to the countries.
So Maher got 1, Singapore.
Maher got 1 Singapore, and you got both your answers, Bobber. So Singapore and
Okay.
Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Maher got Malaysia, which is
Okay.
another point for him. And Maher got Indonesia,
Okay.
which is another point for him. And his other guesses were Japan, North Korea, Germany, and Spain.
Dude, yeah.
Of which none of those have legislated capital punishment. But the funny, interesting thing is when I was doing my research last
About
night.
North Korea?
Yeah, is that it's legal there. It's legal there.
Yeah, I have read that.
Yeah.
I was just kind of not taking. I know it's really harsh in Japan.
Yeah, it is. I don't. But yeah, they're not trying to kill you for it. I don't think.
Yeah, and I thought maybe like in the fascist regimes, maybe they did that in Germany and Spain,
Oh,
but I had no idea.
yeah. Interestingly, I don't know if technically. I'm not even sure if North Korea has capital punishment technically.
Yeah,
Maybe for like
not
espionage or
technically,
something.
just off the board.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, technically, that's like a criminal offense that you would punish for. I don't know, like, there's other offenses, like if it's a military thing and you kill someone, it's not technically capital punishment because it's not
Yeah,
punishable.
I guess
Yeah,
it's not legal. It's
right.
not legal code or whatever.
Yeah.
So what were the other
So yes,
answers?
some of the other ones. One of them was the Philippines,
Oh, that makes
and
No
sense.
fucking
That
way,
totally
well,
really?
makes sense.
they had like a double kind of weird thing about it on
'Cause that might
Wikipedia.
exist right
Is
now.
that yeah, exactly? Is that it kind of exists right now, where they're just like
Mm,
I don't even know what the term they used, which is just like at your discretion, drug abusers and traffickers can be murdered by civilians.
Yeah, that's Duterte's whole thing.
yeah, I
Yeah,
kind of vaguely remember that. Yeah.
yeah. China is one of them.
Really? Okay.
One of them
Oh,
that I thought you might have got, you guys might have gotten was the UAE.
damn! I totally thought of that. That was gonna be my
Yeah,
third
if you go
answer.
Saudi Arabia, you gotta go UAE.
God
Yeah.
damn. I
The
put three
United
at
Arab.
first.
Yeah, yeah. You know that was one of them, Bobber.
That was literally my third answer, dude. If I had put
Why would you
three,
go to? Oh, you
I
just
don't
really
know, man.
wanted that number point.
So
Looks
you've
like
listed 5 of them, I think.
okay,
No, 6 of
six
them,
of them.
and there's 2 more.
Oh no, I think I listed 7. Saudi.
Oh, you did list
Yeah,
7,
yeah.
yeah.
And the last
Let's
one,
go.
which is a little bit out there, stretching the definition of trafficking marijuana, but the U.S. there
What do you
there
mean?
was
Really?
there was in I think in like 2003 or something I read something fairly recently in our lifetime where there was a court case about like kind of what do you call those, like kingpins, drug kingpins.
Yeah,
So if if they're considered a certain like level of criminal
right.
and they
But
were
you
trafficking marijuana,
okay,
that
but
they would be.
that has to be with a capital crime.
I think that like
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, I mean it. Well, it depends on I guess the drugs that they're trafficking, but that was like within the limits of that case. Was marijuana was like part of that group of drugs.
right. But you couldn't independently be executed for trafficking marijuana. It's literally like the only. I mean, 2003 is pretty recent.
Yeah,
I
so
get what you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but
That was a little controversial. I mean, like I understand that. So you want to give Maher another point then for saying 7 instead of 8? Is that what
no,
you're
no, I don't
trying to say?
because if we're gonna nitpick on that, we're gonna nitpick on the Philippines one.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, though, they did have actual capital punishment for it in the past, which
Yeah,
was like whatever changed at some point, but then again now recently, whatever the fuck's happening over there. Jesus.
yeah. I don't know, man. That was an interesting
So,
question. I think controversial.
yeah, we're gonna get some feedback on that.
Uh,
So what's the score at? Most importantly, I got 2 points up on Bob, I think.
Wait, how many did Maher get?
Maher got 3, and you got
Okay,
I
2.
got
So
all
it's
like
still Bob. It's
neighbors.
still Bob's up by 1,
so 7-6.
If
7-6. Yeah,
if you start with Singapore, you got to go Indonesia, Malaysia.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. You notice most of these are Muslim countries.
Yeah, I
It
guess
was
so.
a little
Yeah.
controversial, but ultimately, I think the score kind of reflected your answers a little bit. Except
Yeah,
maybe Bobber
Yeah.
wasn't able to say UAE.
I'm gonna give myself
Yeah.
a point for you.
If
Just
it comes down
You
to
got
it, Bobber's not going to admit defeat.
strong pride point.
yeah.
Strong pride point.
Okay. So as complicated as that question was, I apologize. I guess this is going to be a long ass episode.
Okay.
There's 2 versions of this question. Would you guys like the difficult one or the easier?
I mean,
I don't know. There was 2 ways I wrote this question.
Difficult.
You want the difficult one?
But give us the score first, because I lost track.
It is 7-6, right, Bob? Is that
Yep.
what you
Okay.
Yeah, 7-6.
Bob's up one.
Bob's
Okay.
up 1-7-6. This is question number 8 out of 14.
Okay.
Oh, whoa, we're going 14?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can go
Okay.
10. It's fine. But I just have 14, so.
Only if I'm winning at 10.
The later questions are actually not great, but whatever. So, Bob, you agree? Difficult's okay?
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but
Yeah, I mean, I took out 2 aspects of this fact, and
okay. Oh, yeah, yeah,
a
like
little
that.
bit more
Yeah,
attainable, I feel like, than the other one.
that's fine.
So the more difficult one. Okay.
Yeah.
So April 20th, 1914 is known for a massacre, which has a specific name, which is the answer that you need to give me, where members of the Colorado National Guard
Oh,
and
sorry.
Colorado Fuel and Iron Company guards opened fire on the United Mine Workers Union and set fire to their makeshift tent cities.
Okay, it's totally a Bob
Yeah,
question. I don't know.
yeah. The miners were employed by Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, which is owned by Rockefeller. And Howard Zinn quoted saying, "This is perhaps the most violent struggle between corporate power and laboring men in American history."
Yeah. What was it
So I guess,
called?
yeah. So what was the massacre called? So the easier version of the question was, uh, Colorado Fuel or an Iron Company was owned by which American business titan?
Okay, I didn't know that. So
Oh, the
that
answer
would have
was
screwed
Yeah,
me.
the
Rockefeller.
answer was Rockefeller. Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, I might have gotten that.
yeah. So there was just there was a little bit, narrowed down version of it, right? This is like either you know it or you don't.
Yeah, so I submitted a stupid answer. So.
Maher's answer is so fucking stupid.
What is
No,
it?
he wrote the Boulder Massacre, which is
Okay.
fine. Yeah, that
I
makes sense.
just picked the
Yeah,
city in
pick a city.
Colorado.
Yeah. And Bobber got the correct answer, which was the Ludlow Massacre, which is the city in which it took place.
Okay.
Which is a neighboring city to Boulder, right? So I should get like a half. I
I
actually
wonder.
don't even know where Ludlow is. I've never heard of it.
You haven't heard of the Ludlow Massacre?
I don't know if I have. No.
Okay. Well,
It's apparently pretty significant, at least in a certain spectrum or sphere.
yeah, because it was
Yeah.
probably the worst, like,
Yeah, they killed.
bloodiest.
They just opened fired on civilians, man. It was crazy.
Like
Yeah.
women
It's
children.
nowhere near Boulder, by the way. It's like by New Mexico.
Huh.
It's a ghost town now. I guess like it was probably just a mining town.
Yeah, it's way in the south of Colorado.
So there's maybe a little bit of a drop in the quality of questions from this point on, but fuck it, here we go.
Okay.
It is Bobber is now 8 and Mher is 7. I mean 6.
6.
6. Yeah, 6.
Yeah.
So there's a 2-point gap. 8-6. Bobber's lead. This is question
Okay.
number 9. This is, I guess, fill in the blank. The International 420 or 420 blank is a type of boat. And the blank is the actual type of boat. So if you know anything about types of boats, that's just what the name of that boat is. The International 420 blank.
Is a type of boat?
Yeah.
Man, I'm really weak in boating.
Yeah.
I would say Bobber might be too.
I mean, I don't know if you want me to be more specific than what I put, but we both answered.
Yes, you did both answer.
I mean, I said a tanker, like there are oil tankers, which is what I meant, I guess. But anyway,
Mher said skiff.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a type of boat.
Yeah,
boat.
but I don't know why it would be. Either of these would be international.
Yeah. So I'll apologize for this question at this point.
Maybe it's a yacht.
It is a dinghy.
What is it?
Didn't even cross my mind. Didn't even cross my mind.
It's like a smaller boat that you dispatch from a bigger boat.
Oh.
Isn't a dinghy a kind of skiff after all?
I think it's a type of tanker.
So I just wanted to confirm your lack of knowledge of boats for both of you.
Yeah, thanks.
Question.
A dinghy is a type of small boat often carried or towed to use as a lifeboat or tender by a larger vessel.
But is more modernly used as actionable like competition speedboating.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you look it up, there's like a decent amount of like questions about what's the difference between a skiff and a dinghy. Swear to God, although I searched for that specific thing, and
Oh,
maybe it's just confirmation bias.
that's weird. I looked up dinghy and I don't see those questions.
You gotta look them up together, bud.
Well, I
So
think what that
fair pride point for
I,
knowing
I,
it.
I think what that shows is that they're different. I think that confirms that they're different.
I mean, it does.
You don't see anyone asking what the difference between a dinghy and a tanker.
It's just implied that they're the same, I guess, right? That's
Yeah,
why.
right. All right.
All right. So you guys didn't get that. It is still 8-6. If that's correct, Bobber.
Yeah.
I'm relying on you to confirm.
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
Okay.
All right. This one's a decent question, maybe. Question number 10. Episode 420 of this series was about one of the main characters being arrested for drug possession, which prompts him to launch a campaign to legalize marijuana.
Damn, 420 is a lot
Oof.
of episodes.
420 episodes. That's like 10 seasons of 42 episodes.
Thanks for the
Or the other
breakdown.
way around. Wait, what did you say? You want the
Oh.
character or the show?
The show. I want the show.
Oh,
Episode 420 of this series. All right, both of you submitted the same answer pretty much exactly at the same time, which was The Simpsons.
right.
And
It's
The
got to be,
Simpsons-
right?
There's
The
just so many
Simpsons-
episodes.
Yeah. The Simpsons is incorrect.
Oh, no.
It is Family Guy.
Oh.
Has there
It was-
really been that many episodes of Family Guy? That's
Yeah,
kind of
that seems-
impressive. Okay.
It was Brian who gets caught.
Oh,
Ah.
I remember that episode. He sings and all of that, and they have a legalize the thing, and then I think he like changes his mind, and he sings to like delegalize it or something.
I just didn't think they had that many episodes. But I guess so. 42 seasons, right?
They do have a lot. Yeah, 42.
All right, so there's going to be another step down in terms of quality of questions.
It's still going on, dude. I don't want to say this because I am in the lead, but if you think the quality is that bad, we've had a long episode. You can
No,
count
there's
that
like
10.
yeah, there's a long episode.
We could cut it off. That's fine if they're shitty.
They're okay. They're okay.
I'm cool just hanging out, but I mean, I should
I'm
sleep.
cool
All
hanging
right,
out
let's do it like
too.
this. Let's do it like this. Mher can just cut it here and say Bobber wins. But we can also just continue, whatever, just ask these questions.
I mean, I'm gonna win either way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think let's just cut it. We're gonna hit a 2-hour mark basically of the episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, all right, that's cool. We can call it. That was 10 questions, Naj.
All right, good game, Maher, and very good questions, Naj.
Yeah, thanks for
These are
doing that,
good,
Naj.
man.
All right, I'm just gonna ask you these questions, guys.
All
There
right,
you go. Quick
you want
fire,
this-
not part of the game.
I have them.
bonus.
Would you guys be able to spell the principal psychoactive ingredient of cannabis?
I don't think so, man.
And I'm gonna have to be specific on the spelling.
Wait, just the 3 letters or what?
No, not the 3 letters. The full.
Yeah,
I
can do
don't
the
know,
3
but I can guess.
So close. Oh,
Really?
you guys said the same thing. You guys are fucking the same person.
Fuck you.
This competition means nothing. You guys said the same thing. It's not cannabinoid. It's cannabinol.
But we got the
What
rest
fuck is
right.
cannabinoid is like the
Oh no,
larger
wait,
family or something.
no, it's not. Yeah, well, it's not hydra, Bobber. It's hydro. So you guys talked about this a little bit earlier, but cannabis is indigenous to what geographical area?
Oh, that's the next question.
It's
Oh,
East
I
Asia, right?
thought I didn't think it was East Asia. I thought it was like South Central Asia, like Afghanistan area.
The South Central Asia is the exact answer that I have. So
Is
Oh,
it really?
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm gonna have to
But
give it
I
to
mean,
him.
that's like opium and stuff. But
Um, this is
where did you find that, Naj?
I was online, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's not like super fucking
Found it in
vetted.
Afghanistan, bro.
It's not super confirmed, but that's the information that I found. Um,
Okay.
you feel free to prove me wrong
Oh
next episode on Bob Talk.
no, I don't know. Wikipedia says Central Asia. I believe
This is a retarded question, but
I
cannabis was
believe
used
Wikipedia. Yeah.
by the ancient Hindus of India and Nepal thousands of years ago, and it was called what in Sanskrit?
Damn,
Kush.
that is awesome. Oh, that's a
That
good
is
one, man.
awesome. That is awesome. Did you
Is
see
it
that?
is it Kush?
I'll wait for your answer if you want
That's
to
my
say.
answer.
Well,
Yeah,
Mher already said it, so I'm
yeah.
gonna go with it.
Bobber is. Bobber was influenced. It's ganjika, so
Oh,
Oh,
like
okay.
man.
ganja, like
It's like
ganja.
a cute ganja.
Yeah,
There's a region called Hindu Kush. That's why I thought
yeah,
maybe they're
yeah.
related.
There is. And the last one I think is kind of interesting. The earliest restrictions on cannabis were reported in the Islamic world by what century?
By what century? What do you mean? The century said it?
Like, in
Yeah,
which century were there earliest restrictions on
on
marijuana recorded?
marijuana or cannabis. Yeah, when they actually
Uh, fuck.
put
I'll
it
say
into some kind of decree that.
I'll say.
11th.
Hey, we're on the same team.
Oh, both of you 11th. Nice, dude. Both of you are fucking wrong.
Damn it.
Probably
It was
way later.
the 14th century.
Okay. Well, I would have won either way, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
As long as that was clear, that was the last
No,
thing I wanted to say.
just to make my hair feel okay about it. I don't know. Ending early,
Yeah,
but
no, that's
I guess
fine.
that was quick. I mean, those were hard. Those were hard. The
Some were
spelling
pretty hard.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
spelling.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've always heard.
I couldn't just accept THC as an answer. So
Well, that's really hard to spell, right? Since the name is the spelling. I can stop. All right, GG. Thank you,
okay,
audience. Thank you,
thank you,
Naju.
everybody. Thanks.
Right.
Good game, guys.
You guys enjoyed that though?
Yeah, no, that was good, man. I'm glad we did that. We should do that more often,
Yeah,
dude.
I like mix of questions. I mean, you even did math.